I want to be able to eat normally. I want to be able to think normally.
Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is another review of an eating disorder story. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out my free resources below. If you want to speak with me, there is a link in the box. Today's video was made by Envy Malice Mikki. She has a YouTube channel, although she hasn't produced any videos recently. This video came into my feed and it was a really poignant, emotional tale about her eating disorder and how it's ruining her life. She's ready to move on, but she hasn't moved on. You're going to hear this battle in her mind and how she's struggling every day. She wants to recover, but she can't. There's a block. Anybody who's ever dealt with disordered eating knows what this feels like, and you're going to see it in this video. The point of this video then is to understand eating disorders and recovery better. Without further preface, let's get to it.
Hi, nice to meet you. I'm a mess.
Nice to meet you too. When you have an eating disorder, when you're struggling, it's really easy to use language like this. I'm a mess, I'm broken, I'm screwed up, I'm effed up. But when you use language like this, it alters your behavior because what you say often dictates what you do. You create your own expectations. When you're in recovery, you really need to watch your language and how you describe yourself. You need to dissociate yourself from the actual behavior. You need to be more dispassionate. It's really hard to do. It's really hard to take this personally and say, this behavior is a reflection of who I am. It's a reflection of my character. But when you're enmeshed in this cycle, it's really easy to look at yourself and say, I'm a mess.
You know that I've been relapsing in my eating disorder for 2 years, and I've been back and forth between hardcore relapse and trying to recover.
I think her main eating disorder here is anorexia. Now, I don't know what she means by hardcore relapse. I've never used that term myself, but she's definitely in that relapse phase. So I guess she was doing well at one point. Now she's relapsed. Now she feels stuck. I suspect that she made this video after an episode, or after a really bad day, or after a really bad day of restriction. Usually this is how I felt after an episode. I felt really bad about myself. I wrote terrible things about myself in my journal. I didn't want to look at myself in the mirror. I took it personally. I said, I'm a failure. I'll never overcome this. Why am I still doing this? I'm too old for this. Negative language is really tempting. I suspect that she's at the bottom of her anorexia cycle.
Right now, I'm currently trying to recover. It is the hardest addiction I've ever had to overcome.
She says this is the hardest addiction she's overcome. I guess she's implying that she's had other addictions in her life. Let's say she has. Let's say she's had addiction to drugs or smoking or something. It doesn't mean that she necessarily has an addictive personality. I don't like that term. Nobody has an addictive personality. But one thing I do understand is how hard it is to overcome this. It seems so simple. It's just like, when you're hungry, eat. When you're not hungry, don't eat. But anybody who's ever dealt with disordered eating knows it's not easy. It is simple on paper. It's simple when I explain it, but it's never easy.
Started to count my calories like I normally do.
This is the typical behavior of disordered eaters, even in recovery, counting calories. It provides some sense of control. That's what it is. Weighing yourself, weighing food, measuring yourself, looking at nutrition facts, reading ingredient labels. These are all signs that you lack control and you want it. And this is usually how these eating disorders start in the first place. You sense a loss of control, or you don't have any control over your surroundings, but you have control over this. It starts with orthorexia and then anorexia, and then you get addicted to that control. You don't want to relinquish that control. And that makes it really hard to recover, because if you are orthorexic, if you are anorexic, you need to gain weight. You don't need to become obese, but you need to gain weight for proper metabolic function, for hormone production, for proper energy levels, to feel happy. Counting calories is something that most dieters do, and then most disordered eaters do it. Even after recovery, you might do it. It's a really subtle habit, it's a really easy habit to do, and it's really hard to break.
I'm sick of caring too much about my body, my food intake.
Eating disorders take so much time, so much focus, so much energy. That's one of the worst things about it. You can't do anything else. You can never be 100% engaged in anything else. You're always thinking about your next fix, your next episode. What did I just eat? What am I going to eat? How many calories were in that? How many calories is in this? Or if you have a really rigid food schedule, you get really anxious when you miss the timing of your meal, or when you eat something that's on your don't eat list, or when you break one of your many rules. It causes lots of anxiety and you start to lose focus. This is clearly taking over her life.
I realize that the only person who can change this in my life is me.
She's right. She's the only one who can change this. She can get guidance, she can get clarity, she can get accountability, but the only one who can say yes or no is her. This is what I call total ownership. Might not be your fault that you have this behavior, but it is your responsibility.
I keep saying I can't overcome this eating disorder. I can't do it without help. I can't.
Sometimes that's how I felt. I'll never overcome this. There's no way out. I might as well live with this. But she is right. It's easier with help. But you have to believe that you can overcome it. If you don't believe that you can, you're never going to get help.
But I know that it's possible if I just keep trying and just put in the effort.
Yes, you need to keep trying. Yes, you need to put in the effort, but you also need help. But you need some plan. You need some guidance. It's like making money. You can try harder. You can put in more effort. You can put in more hours. You're not necessarily going to get rich. You need to work hard and you need to work smart. Recovery is the same way. You need to have the right mindset, but you also need to recover smart. Doing the same things and trying harder is only going to get you the same result.
I'm still restricting, but I'm trying to get out of that.
Maybe this is what she means by hardcore relapse. She's restricting really hard, she's not eating a lot. Maybe this is her anorexia.
I want to be free.
We all want to be free. And the thing is, when you're enmeshed in this kind of cycle, you don't own your time, you don't own your money, you don't own your thoughts, you don't own anything. This thing can be really debilitating. It can take over your life. It can sabotage any goals that you want. I can tell that she's not free, and she wants to be free, and she doesn't know the way out.
And I just don't want to be this way anymore. And I'm so sick of being this way.
There's clearly a block here. She says she's sick of being like this. She doesn't want to live this way. So the obvious question is, well, why do you keep doing this? My suspicion is there's some benefit to staying in that cycle, and there's a fear of leaving that cycle. This cycle provides familiarity, provides comfort. It's kind of like an abusive relationship. You know you need to leave, but you don't want to. There's some benefit, so if you leave, you won't have that benefit anymore. If you leave, you won't have that security anymore. If you leave, there's a whole new world out there, and who knows what's out there.
I've got bigger things in my life that I need to worry about right now.
Which she can't worry about until she fixes this. This is why you need to focus on your disordered eating, your eating disorder, before you pursue any other goals in your life. Everything else is secondary. It's going to be so much harder to pursue anything else that's valuable in your life until you fix this. This kind of behavior can define you. It can become your identity, and that's one more reason why it's so hard to leave. It's one more reason why it's so hard to quit this cycle, because it becomes you. You think you are this cycle. You can't imagine living without the cycle. It's been so long, you wouldn't know what to do.
My eating disorder literally defines me lately, and I don't want that anymore.
If your ED is your identity and you quit, what's your identity now?
You know, just do one thing at a time, one thing each day.
That's the attitude. One thing at a time, one thing each day. Do one better thing today than you did yesterday. Make one more good decision today than you made yesterday. You don't need to take massive action. You don't need to go all in order to recover. You just need to be a little better today than you were yesterday. Just make sure you're heading in the right direction.
Switching my diet to a vegan diet makes me happier with myself, I guess. And though it enables my eating disorder to get worse,
she needs to be careful here, because she's right. A vegan diet can enable an eating disorder. I'm not anti-vegan. If you're healthy and you do a vegan diet, great. Personally, I don't. But when you're trying to recover, you need to discard any diets. You don't need to go on a vegan diet. You don't need to cut out entire food groups right now. That is one of the worst things you could do. Everything needs to be on the plate right now. All whole foods need to be on the plate. You don't necessarily need to have cookies and donuts, but you need to have fish, you need to have eggs. Once you recover, you can reconsider.
And it's going to be a lot harder to recover if I don't like myself.
You don't need to love yourself, you don't need to like yourself. Yeah, I guess it would help, but it's not necessary. You need to understand the brain, you need to understand habits, you need to understand what you want. What is it that you want? And why are you not pursuing it? It's not so important to understand why this happened, how you develop this ED. What's in the past is in the past. What you need to understand is, where do you go from here? Loving yourself is 1% of the equation.
Letting my mind and my eating disorder drag me down is only gonna land me in a hospital.
Maybe, but probably not. Yes, EDs are one of the most vicious mental disorders out there. Even so, even for anorexics, the vast majority of anorexics don't end up in a hospital. I think the fatality rate for anorexia is like 1%. Correct me if I'm wrong. Now, 1% is pretty high for a mental disorder, but still, 99% don't go that far. For most anorexics, they turn into bulimics. They turn into binge eaters. Like, it morphs into another eating disorder. I don't think she should fear death as much as she should fear living a bad life.
It's gonna be a very slow and painful process. I'm probably not gonna make it.
She's saying that recovery is going to be a slow and painful process. Again, watch the language that you use. If you think it's going to be slow and painful, it will be. Recovery is simple and it's gradual, and sometimes it's frustrating. I wouldn't say it's painful. We're not going to basic training here. We're not swimming the English Channel. We're not doing the Ironman triathlon here. But it is a long-term process. It takes months, and for some people, 1 or 2 years to fully recover. It can be frustrating, it has peaks and it has valleys. And I can tell that right now, she's in a valley.
In the midst of my depression.
So it appears she has depression too. I don't know what the statistics are, but I would guess that the rates of depression are higher among people with EDs. I don't know which one comes first. Does the depression lead to the ED, or does the ED lead to depression? I would guess the latter, but I find that oftentimes it's correlated. I don't treat depression. I don't know what the answer to depression is. I can tell you that if she overcame the ED, her depression would be better. Overcoming an ED leads to a sense of accomplishment, improved self-confidence, better body image, better everything. And when she overcomes it, she can pursue all those other goals that she has.
Anorexia does not have a look. That's just a symptom, but it does not matter.
This is why I think she's dealing with anorexia. And she's right. Anorexia doesn't have a look. Bulimia doesn't have a look. Binge eating disorder doesn't have a look. I've seen some people who were in really good shape who had bulimia or who had BED. You just never know. Just because you're not sticks and bones and you're not 75 pounds doesn't mean you don't have anorexia. So thank you for dispelling that myth.
I want to be able to eat normally. I want to be able to think normally.
How many times did I say this? I just want to be normal. I just want to eat normally. Why can't I be like everybody else? That's very frustrating. In fact, that was one of my biggest motivations in recovery. I just want to be normal. This had gone on for so long. It had taken so much of my time, so much of my life. It had come to define an entire decade of my life, even more. I almost flunked out of grad school because of it. It affected my performance at school. It hurt relationships. It really is a destructive habit. It doesn't just affect you. It affects everybody in your periphery. And I can see the pain and the frustration in her face and her body language. She's not happy. She's depressed. She knows where she wants to go, but there's a block and she's not sure how to get there. This was a really powerful and emotional and a really honest video, so I commend her for sharing it. I wish she made more videos like this, but again, she hasn't made a video in 9 months, so I'm not sure if she'll make a return. Hope you found this video educational and entertaining. Don't forget to subscribe and check out my resources below. If you like this video, I'm sure you'll like one of the other videos that you see on the screen. Click one of them, and I'll see you there. And as always, eat the way you're designed to.